Expressed on this program are those of the host or guest and should not be interpreted as statement of fact. Independent fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
Oh, boy. Good morning, folks. What the hell day is it? It's Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. April 19th is a bad day. But today's going to be a good day, no matter what. Rob Maybe is our scheduled guest, and Jackie, the joke man, Martland, is also scheduled to be here today. So I look forward to talking to both of them. Rob is a younger comedian based out of Phoenix, Arizona, currently. Has spent a lot of time in the Southwest in various different places. And Jackie, you know Jackie. Come on, I got to tell you about Jackie. Come on. Really? Anyway, it's great to have you here. Kind of sleepy today. Once again, did not get enough sleep. It's all my fault. Henry Phillips was great last night. Oh, was Henry Phillips on last night? No, Henry Phillips was a morning guest. Henry Phillips was on last night. I did it as a Coffee with the Dog, just so that I could air it sometime as a Coffee with the Dog. And I prefer to have it in a playlist of the Coffee with the Dog show, even though we did it in the evening last night. But it was great to catch up with Henry and talk to him for a little over an hour last night. Talked about a bunch of things. Music is plans with doing more stand-up. He's been out of it for a while, doing mostly his streaming shows and stuff like that, and doing some acting and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, did not sleep well, up working late, and kind of tired. It's one of those days. So I'm wearing, it's over here, the sweatshirt hoodie of the company I've been let go from because I think Kid Rock is a jerk. Apparently that's why, or whatever I was canceled for. I should have put something over the logo. I'm wearing it because I was cold. It was a little chilly in the studio this morning. So I put it on just because it was cold. Not to advertise for them, but you know what? Couldn't hurt. EPM Studios. If you're looking for whatever you're looking for as far as video film production, why not give them a call? What the hell? In the news, you ready for this? Are you ready? Of course, but you probably, unless you watch Fox News a lot and don't watch any other news in the world, know about the lawsuit that was settled yesterday. Fox News admitting to being lying scumbags for Trump cost them more than $750 million in a settlement. Would have gotten a lot worse if it would have went to trial. Would have been $1.6 billion, or maybe more. And they're not done yet. But the bottom line is, they admitted to lying for Trump, knowing that the election fraud nonsense was all just that nonsense. They knew it all along, and they were pushing this narrative, and they had texts. In case you don't know this, in case you're just like a Fox cult member, text between all those people about how much they hate Trump, how much they knew it was all bullshit, still having to push the narrative for that guy, and it cost them. It cost them $750 million so far. Now, Smartmatic has a lawsuit coming right up the Alice. Next up in line, lawsuit from Smartmatic for another $2.7 billion, and their case is stronger, much stronger, even because of yesterday, because of the settlement. Not looking good for old Rupert. Not looking good for Fox, and that's a good thing for America. It really is. And just in case you're one of these dipshits who thinks I am saying this as a pro-Democrat guy or just like endorsing the Democratic Party, I have been saying all along America needs a strong Republican Party. A strong Republican Party starts with flushing the orange turd and distancing yourself completely from them. And they still don't get that. They're still clinging to the orange turd. Man brings nothing but damage. Again, Fox News, $750 million for Trump. Trump did that to them. Here you go. Good. Everything he touches turns to disaster. Everything he touches turns to disaster. His whole life long. This is his story. This myth about him being a great success, it's all smoke and mirrors and lies. He's never been successful at anything other than The Apprentice, and he wasn't responsible for that. Mark Burnett was. All he had to do was sit there and say, "You're fired," and let the guys behind the scenes pump him up and put out the smoke and mirrors to fool the American people. But there's that, and there's also the big other criminal legal stuff that's coming his way. I can't imagine this guy surviving all of this stuff that's coming at him, and he deserves every last bit of it. It got worse yesterday with the Dominions settlement. Got worse, but then, a couple of days ago, it started to get much worse for those people. Ali Alexander, you know the name? One of the leaders of January 6th thing. One of the people who brought Nick Fuentes to the White House to deal with Trump. One of the leaders of MAGA movement, Ali Alexander. And you know, or you may not know if you're not really paying attention, the Republican Party's favorite thing to do right now is to scream pedophile, pedophile. Oh, the trans people and gay people, and they're all pedophiles, and everybody who doesn't agree with Trump is a pedophile. Well, guess what? One of their leaders, Ali Alexander, caught DMing 15-year-old boys, trying to pressure them to have sex. 15-year-old boys, I say. 15-year-old boys, I say. 16-year-old boys, asking them to send them dick pics and nudies. Multiple offenses of soliciting, and admits to it. Not like he even is trying to cover it up. Admits that he was soliciting young boys for sex. Okay. He's a pedophile. Hasn't been arrested yet. But one of the leaders of the party of screaming pedophile every 3 seconds, turns out he's a pedophile. Who knew? Well, who knew? Everybody knew, apparently, because here's the thing. Him and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is suspected to be Trump's or suggested or rumored to be Trump's running mate, was pals with Ali Alexander. So is Roger Stone. You got to know these names, even if you're totally disconnected from the political scene. You got to know Roger Stone. You got to know Marjorie Taylor Greene. Stone was having Alexander over his house as recently as this past Sunday. Buddy, they know what he was up to. But when it came out that Alexander has been trying to diddle little boys, Alexander threatened to bring, and now this is not the first time in recent weeks, months, Alexander has threatened people high up in the Republican Party that he knows where the bodies are buried, and he has information on all of them, and could get them arrested. Crimes he's talking about, exposing their crimes, and brought Musk into it. You know Elon Musk. You've heard of him, right? Now Musk preemptively banned Ali Alexander from Twitter. Let's be clear here. The pedophilia, the approaching young boys, did not happen on Twitter. It happened in general text messages. So there's no Twitter violation. So there's no reason for Elon Musk to ban Ali Alexander from Twitter. He's been admitted to a crime, accused of and admitted to a crime. But that crime didn't take place on Twitter. So there's no reason. I mean, if you want to look at people who are accused of a crime, Andrew Tate is accused of a crime. He's still on Twitter. They're admitted to those crimes as well. He videotaped those crimes. He's in prison. He's still on Twitter. So there's no reason for Musk. Well, no apparent obvious reason. Well, obvious is another thing. Reason for Trump to ban Ali Alexander from Twitter. Unless, listen to that crack in the voice. He's covering his own ass. That's what it is, right? Hey, wait a minute. I can't let this guy tell people, but because remember now, Musk is the guy that hangs out with Ghislaine, or hung out with Ghislaine Maxwell, uh, which is all about young girls. So it's not a far stretch, but he's threatening everybody. Alexander's threatening Marjorie Taylor Greene with not necessarily pedophilia, other stuff he knows about crimes that she committed and says has evidence of it. He's threatening everybody, but he's been silenced by the free speech people. People who love free speech all of a sudden don't like free speech when it's a guy saying, I got dirt on you. I don't know. It's not looking good. I don't know if Rob Baby even remembers. I haven't heard back from him, but he's the one who picked this date. I should just keep my other browser open just in case. So that's where we are with the pedophile party. I've said this all along. The louder these people complain, the people who complain the loudest are the ones who have the skeletons in the closet. Absolutely. Kid Rocks of the world. The guys who are shooting the beer cans because it has a gay person's picture on the beer can. Kid Rock is a closeted gay guy. He got signed for $40 million by Miller, taking advantage of this controversy. If I'm not mistaken, let me see, Miller Lite. If I'm not mistaken, I think Miller has some campaigns for LGBT, the letters. I hate the letters, man. I don't hate the people who are letters. I hate typing the letters. LGBTQ, is that it? Miller Lite. I think they have their own. I don't think Open and proud. Yeah, Miller Lite has. I don't think uh, old Kid Rock is aware of this. That or maybe he is, and just as a total hypocrite, or just about the money, whatever. Uh, Before Rob gets here, Jackie's already sitting in the back there. I'll bring him in a minute. Um, Jackie's playing tomorrow night or performing tomorrow night. Playing for me, every gig is playing uh, at uh, Parks Casino, 360 Lounge at Park Casino in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, um, and that is with the legendary Wild. And it doesn't have a name there. Hold on, there's got to be a name to this. Legendary Wild John Kensel. It doesn't say that on Jackie's website. It just says the Legendary Wild. Hey, the Legendary Wild. Is that the says? Just to make sure I'm reading this right. Thursday, April 20th, with the Legendary Wild, 360 Lounge Park Casino. Like that's the guy's handle, I guess. The legend John Kensel. I don't know John Kensel. Legendary Wild. But if you're in the Bensalem, Pennsylvania area, tomorrow night, go out for some comedy. You'll laugh your ass off. Your ass you'll laugh off. Waiting on Rob Maybe, and Jackie is here now. Jackie doesn't need any introduction. First of all, everybody in show business knows Jackie on some level, whether it's like 1 degree of separation or 6 degrees of separation. The guy knows everybody going back to Enrico Caruso and Charlie Chaplin because he was a contemporary of this. I need sleep, folks. Anyway, Jackie, the joke man Martling, the most famous comedian who ever lived, is with us this morning. Good morning. I need sleep.
You don't need sleep.
I do.
You need glasses.
I have glasses. Why? What? No, I do need glasses. I'm wearing glasses, but it doesn't say Bill Kensett on your website at all. It says
The legendary Wid, W-I-D.
Oh, Wid.
His real name is Michael Baldwin. His wild name is the legendary Wid, which I still have no idea where he comes from. I've known him for 43 years. He's one of those guys that gets on stage with 2 truckloads of crap. And
prop comic.
every single thing has like one bad joke or one bad pun. And he's so bright and so funny. His name is Michael Baldwin, and he's just a delightful, delightful chap. And I don't think we've worked together in decades. But he lives near the Parks Casino in Bensalem, and so we're co-headlining. John Kensel's just a friend of his, and he's another comic.
Okay. I do need glasses. You're right. I'm seeing Legendary Wild, and it's Wid.
Right, and also Joe Conklin is on the show, and he's a very famous. Well, it's actually his show. He does it every other Thursday, and he's like a radio guy in Philadelphia that's famous for doing every sports voice from all the Pennsylvania and Philadelphia teams, none of which I ever know. So he goes up and says, "Here's Harry Longworth," and he goes, "Good, good, good." Everybody goes berserk. I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Joe Conklin is a great guy, and it's going to be a fun thing.
Well, it sounds like a great show. They should put all those people on the website, because when you go for tickets, they don't list all 4 of you. They just list you and the legendary Wid.
There you go. You got
it. Conklin's Comedy Night. Okay. Now, I remember one of those voices, the announcer for the Eagles, who used to do NFL Weekly, the hour highlight show. That was the best part when I was a kid, is watching that NFL highlight reel on Saturday night before the games. But that guy had a great voice. I would recognize that one. Other than that, I think Richie Ashburn was the Philadelphia Phillies guy. but I wouldn't recognize his voice.
Wasn't he on the Philadelphia Phillies? I know that name, which means he's from the 50s.
Yeah, he was from on the Phillies. He was on the Mets for like 1 year, and then back to Philly.
And way back, I think maybe the first two, you can't really call them celebrity encounters, but whatever you call, I was at a Yankee game, and my mother made me walk down and take a picture of Joe E. Brown. Do you remember that guy?
Yes.
He was about 100 years old. I still have the picture. And I went to the Polo Grounds once, and the Giants were playing the Phillies. And for whatever reason, Harvey Haddix came over and he was signing autographs for the kids. And that was the first autograph and the first actual celebrity interaction. I don't know if you remember him. He's famous for he pitched 11 perfect innings and lost.
Right. Pittsburgh Pirates. It was the first book that I ever took out of the library and read was about the almost perfect game. It was what it was called, and it was about the Harvey Haddock thing.
It's so sad. So sad.
Yeah. You know what today is?
I think it's Hanukkah.
Yes, that's what it is. Just about 8 months off. But today is Jane Mansfield's 90th birthday, which I'm surprised that only 90, because that would make her younger than my mother, which it kind of weirds me out a little bit.
You know, you think of her from being from the 30s, but she wasn't. She was
Right.
from the late 50s. You know.
But we talked about her last time you were on the show because you told me that Martisha Hargitay.
Mariska Hargitay.
Hargitay, that one, yes.
You
She's
need
her
glasses.
daughter. You told me that, but then I saw this. Let me show you. This picture. Look at this picture, man. That's both of them like side by side. Marissa.
Which one is Mickey Hargitay?
On the left, the dark hair.
You don't even hear my jokes.
Mitzi Hargitay.
I said, which one is Mickey Hargitay?
Mickey Hargitay. That's her name, right?
That's
Mickey?
her father's name.
Oh.
I was being funny. God, you're like, you're like a flat tire on the road to comedy.
I told you I need sleep. I need sleep.
They did fit together remarkably well.
Yeah, I mean, I so now that you said it, now I see it everywhere. It's like you can't not see it, but before that, I didn't even know it.
And she's a very, in a weird way, she is ridiculously sexy, Mariska. She just, she's got that intensity, like, wow,
It wasn't that way before you told me she was Jane Mansfield's daughter, but now, yes. Now every time I see her, I was like, wow, she's kind of hot.
Well, everybody needs a charity and everybody needs a purpose. And my purpose is to get most of the world horny for Mariska Hargitay. And you're my first.
Well, it's good. It's working. It's working. So the Park Lounge Casino, you a gambler at all?
I am not even the slightest amount. It's in the middle of nowhere, but they recently built a huge showcase arena where they have bigger acts where I might have been able to play 3 decades ago. But it's like a bar showroom on the side of because it's a big round building. And it's great. It's great fun, but it's amazing the amount of people. You see people that look like they haven't had a meal in 10 weeks that are gambling. But I have never. Gambling is for people that don't understand math. You know what I mean? I was in Las Vegas a million times. Maybe I'd sit and when I had nothing to do and I was killing 20 minutes, play video poker and you put in your quarters, which is kind of fun, But the reason I got so turned off, I was never a gambler, but me and my future ex-wife, no, she was my wife at the time, the whole Stern Show went down to Atlantic City. And we got there late and there were no rooms. And they said, the only way you can get a room is if you gamble enough. So we started playing $75 a hand blackjack. and we're playing and playing, but it's not how much you win or lose. It's how long you play for how much.
Right.
If you play X amount of, I guess, $75 a hand for a certain amount of hours, you can get a room comped. So we're playing and playing, and finally they tap us on the shoulder and say, "All right, you got to the limit or whatever," and we're up like $2,000, which at the time, this is like the early '90s, it was still a lot of money to me. And we said, "Wow, enough of this." We went up to the room, got some room service, and we're watching Carson or whatever. Or I think it was still Carson at the time.
Yeah.
And I looked over and I said, "Nancy, what are we doing? We're in Atlantic City. It's 11:30 in Atlantic City. What the hell are we doing?" So we went down and gambled until we lost the $2,000, and then we went to bed. And I said, "This is ridiculous.
No.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Either you're playing with their money so you keep going, or you're trying to win your money back so you keep going. The only way to win is to be in Las Vegas, play the slot machine in the airport, and hit it 5 seconds before they tell you to get on the plane. That is the only way to leave there with money." And I've told that story a million times. People say, "Oh, I won $4,000 yesterday." What about the 30 times you lost $4,000 or 10 grand or. But I
Yeah.
guess if you really love it, I guess that's one thing.
I laughed when you said gambling is for people who are not good at math, because I grew up in a compulsive gambler household.
Oh no.
And I would have to say my father probably was not good at math, but
I love seeing these guys in muddy work boots standing there at the 7-Eleven with the clink, 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 clink as the guy's printing out their lottery tickets.
no.
You just want to shake them, say, "No, go buy a sandwich, you moron."
Did I ever tell you my backstory with all this?
No,
My
no.
father was a bookie. He started running, the tickets in the late 50s. The betting tickets for football and those kind of things.
Is this Philadelphia?
No, running out of Idlewild, and which became JFK.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but so then he became a full blown bookie. Taking bets on everything and anything that you could take bets on.
People will bet on anything.
Yeah, that was my tweet last week. I said a real gambler will bet, will gamble on anything, and I'll bet money on it. So I come home from school, ninth grade, one day, and nobody's home. Where's mom and dad? They've been arrested by the FBI. A guy named Rebel, who was in like
He's never going to be any good.
Yeah, $300,000 debt to my father, and took off without paying him, and was worried that he was going to get killed or whatever, and decided to go to the FBI and rat him out. And the FBI put a wiretap on my house. And since my mother was taking a lot of the calls, they decided that she was complicit and a co-conspirator or whatever. They got under RICO charges. But they were also monitoring every phone call that came to my house. Now, I was 13 years old at the time, dealing LSD and doing all sorts of illegal things like that. And they had plenty on me, too. And my brother was doing some illegal things, too. So my brother
it was a cornucopia.
Yeah. So my brother went to
wrong.
threaten the cops, and they told him, "Shut the fuck up, or we'll take you and your little brother too. We'll take the whole family at once." So it was not. So yeah. So that's
that story about the guy that runs out of the casino. He runs up to a stranger and says, "Hey man, I need $500. Please give me $500. Loan me $500. My wife needs an operation." And the stranger says, "Your wife needs an operation. What are you doing in the casino?" The guy says, "Oh, I got gambling money."
But that's true. That's definitely the truth. Now, it looks like Rob maybe might even forgot he's on the show today. This happens with these young comedians. They get all excited. This guy was one of the ones who really was bugging me. I want to get on the show. He started in Road Comics of America, and then he doesn't show up. Now, I think his name is
Speaking of which, when are you going to do our show?
What show?
Me and Bales, the stand-up memories.
Tomorrow. I'm doing it tomorrow.
All right.
You didn't know?
Why didn't they tell me?
I don't know. They don't tell you anything.
We sit here and we do this week after week, and it dawned on me, holy crap! Now I see you so much. It never dawned on me you never did our show.
No.
Do
Well,
you want to?
nobody knows who I am anyway. Nobody knows who, except the Mind Dog people know who I am.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You
Oh,
know, someday I want to talk about that. I don't even know what I can say. You know, we had a mentalist on. You know, and you know, you don't want to get in trouble with all your friends, but Jesus, man, you know, the the people that believe in mentalism are the people that are too stupid to gamble.
You know, that's how.
So you want to do it? I can have
You're doing it. You're hitting all the bases here today. I got my start as a mentalist. I used. That's what I did. That's where Mind Dog.
No.
That's where Mind Dog comes from. But I worked for the cult. There's a whole other story. Working for a healing cult, and they were, you know, these people totally believed in everything. They believed in everything from UFOs to the Easter Bunny to every imaginable myth. And they asked me to do 30 minutes before as a warm-up act for the cult leader one time. And I went up and I did a magic mentalism act for 1,200 like Jonestown believers. And they all thought that I was the new cult leader. And she got pissed because she was like I was stealing her crowd away. Like all of a sudden they were adoring me now because I'm doing Kreskin's act, like completely. I mean, everything he taught me, word for word. I didn't even change any of it. Doing Kreskin stuff they could have seen on television 100 times.
Is he an old friend of yours? I know Kreskin for 40 years.
Yeah, I studied mentalism from Kreskin.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
That's funny. We were talking. Ralph and I were talking about you last night, and Ralph said, "You know, Jackie knows everybody who ever been in entertainment on any level, whether they were just an extra in a movie or the biggest star in the world."
I have the greatest story about Kreskin. The huge night, the Hugh Hefner roast, didn't come off when it was supposed to. It was set back a month, and finally we had it. They had it. Whoever had the Friars had it, and it was only a couple months after 9/11. And this was the famous night that Gilbert Gottfried told the Aristocrats because he told a 9/11 joke, and everybody's like, "Oh, too soon, too soon." But there were like 40 people on the dais. I wasn't on the dais to talk. I was on the dais to fill a seat because nobody wanted to fly after 9/11. So a lot of the book guests weren't going to come. So we're all in the green room. On the way in, I wrote a bunch of jokes, and Gilbert did 4 of my jokes before he did the Aristocrats. In fact, one of the jokes he told that I gave him was the actual promo on TV for the Comedy Central roast of Hefner. The joke was, Hugh Hefner is so old, his first condom was made out of bark. Which is a classic joke because it's clean enough for TV. So the way it worked is everybody assembled in the green room, and the person that was sitting the furthest to the right on the dais was in the front of the line. And then you were in order. So when you marched out onto the dais, everybody's in line, and then everybody sat down. So Kreskin was in the far right. So he was the first person in line. And we're at the Hilton, which is immense, right? All kinds of places in the kitchen. And we leave the green room to walk out on the stage. We start walking single file. And he must have taken a wrong turn. And I swear to God, Matt, we're walking down the hallway. And here comes Kreskin coming back the other way. And we peed up and like, Kreskin, of all people to get lost, you be able to find your way. I was going to pee my pants. I swear to God. Oh, my God.
You could have got some kind of retainer or like silence fee or something
to never tell that story.
Non-disclosure agreement. Yeah. Wait a minute, I can't get lost because that was part of his shtick about finding your ES or what HSP as he called it, hypersensitive perception, is playing those games like going through a maze and finding your way out and how great he was.
I understand doing that show in Kansas City for 500 people and maybe getting out of there alive. pulling that crap for 60 years. I bow my hat to that guy, and I love him. I hug him, and his handshake could kill a gorilla. But how Jesus Christ, my hat's off to him. I don't know how Jesus, frightening. There's a great movie called Nightmare Alley. Did you ever see it?
No.
It's all about Bradley Cooper gets in with a carnival, and they have like a mind reader, and the way they pull those stunts and everything. People want to fall for crap. Hey Matt, your father's talking to me. Really? You know what I mean? They want to buy that.
What
But
number does he want you to play? Because that would be my father's first thing. If my father came to a psychic, he would be telling me play 516. Like, where do I play it? He was my father in my entire life. I remember him with that. You got to play this number. Like, what? Play it where? Oh, well, somebody died at 10:15 in the morning, so we got to play 10:15. Like,
did he
always.
believe that, or was he breaking chops?
No, he was. I was betting as a kid, going to the racetrack and betting from like 4 years old. He was having me pick horses because I was pretty good at it. I like children's luck at it, whatever it was. But like, so I mean, he was a total gambler. He to the point where I remember 9 years old, Christmas Eve, he won big time, and he comes home with this presents, everything. I mean, the house is full of brand new stereo, a system that could print your own LPs on, like a recording system. Day after Christmas, come home and it's all gone. I had to hock it.
There was a comic, a very well-loved comic. I don't know if you ever knew him, Mitchell Walters.
Yeah.
And he was around forever, and he was a really horrible gambling addiction. We used to work in the Florida comic strip, and he would lose every day at the dog track. But the few times he won, the next day, he'd take the whole gang out to breakfast. You'd think he was a gazillionaire because he couldn't spend it fast enough. And he was very generous. And 2 minutes later, he'd say, hey, can I borrow 40? Can I borrow, But it's, it's almost if it's entertaining. Like if you want to go to Las Vegas, take $1,000 out and say, all right, this is my cover charge for hanging out with all these morons. My buddy, I had two brothers that are still very good friends of mine growing up. And their father was a championship jockey. Did I ever tell you about this?
No.
He won the Triple Crown in 1946 on
Man of War.
Assault, who was out of the King Ranch, and his name was Warren C. Mertens. And they grew up at the racetrack. And I remember as a kid at 7th grade, I didn't have enough for a hamburger. And they would go to Saratoga, and they used to walk hots. I guess after the horses have a workout, the kids just walk the horse around to walk. And they get like $100 a horse or something. And these guys had cash coming out of their ears. And I just used to be so crazy. But all those years hanging out at the racetrack, my buddy Wari said, these guys study and they read the horse's history and they read everything you can. And when they pick a horse, a lady that bets on a horse because she likes the color of his sash has exactly the same chance of winning as that moron. There is no, the whole thing is patently absurd. But it's the sport of kings. You got to be rich to waste your money on that.
Everybody thinks they have a system, and it comes down to the best I ever did at the track was just on a whim. Like the name meant something to me, or the color of the horse's
That's exactly. And Broadway is the racetrack without horses. You can't win. You're gonna be out of your mind,
So here's it's fun and entertaining unless you grow up in a house like that. Well, because that's why I was a runaway, and that's why I left home, because it was just insane. One day we'd be rich, and the next day we'd be poor, and it was like that every day, and that's a lot of stress for a kid. But I got lost.
I have a very close friend, a beautiful girl, whose father was a gambler, but he was in stocks and bonds and Wall Street. But they would be gazillionaires one year, and the next year they're walking around in a barrel, and it's, in retrospect, it kind of seems exciting, and, but it's horrible.
It is crazy. But the kicker of this, and people who have heard this story too many times, so I'm just going to go. The quickest version here. When I was 3 years old, my father lost me at the racetrack, and
He
I am
bet you and somebody got you?
no, he was watching his horse so intently that his 3-year-old son walked away, and he didn't care, didn't notice. It was all about the horse coming in, and Chinese family ended up. I guess I was hanging out with the Chinese boy, and being friends with him, and they took me home. And I lived with that family for either 3 to 7 days, depending on who you talk to.
Stop it. Stop
Yeah.
it.
1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, kind of.
No, is that when your hair fell out?
No,
I am not racist and I am not prejudiced. And I laughed out loud last night. I went to the brokerage because Peter Bales, you know Peter Bales.
yeah.
He has a comedy class, stand-up university, and it's so great. And last night was every 10 weeks there's a graduation. And the 9 people who are in the class each do their 10 minutes. It was really fun. And the place was sold out. I was so proud. He always has me show up and do 10 minutes in the beginning to lend some credibility to me or them or whatever. But the place was packed, so I had to park across the street. And I'm not a proud guy, and I always pee in parking lots, okay? And I'm peeing in the parking lot, and there's never a car in this parking lot, comes around the corner. And all of a sudden, I get caught dick-handed taking a leak. And I look in the car, and it's 2 Chinese guys. And I swear, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's all right, they're Chinese. which makes it was like it was less of a crime. And I'm like, Jackie, what kind of horrible person are you? You know, I just laughed. You know, it was just so ridiculous. I don't know why I told that story, but it's absurd. You know.
Yeah.
Really no, wait. I didn't mean to lessen you. When did your father miss you, or does he still not know where you are?
No, actually, they in those days, you're talking 1962. There were no Amber Alerts or anything like this. I think the best they could do was like alert the local radio stations and whatever that they were looking for me. They apparently,
but they had no idea you were the Chinese family.
No, and
I'm sure
I look
somebody
kind of
knocks on the
Chinese. If you see
knock
pictures,
on the Chinese people's door, they're not going to answer the door because they're not supposed to be here, right?
I think so. I don't know if they were whatever their situation was, but I was living with them as one of their children after three or 4 days or so.
Here's the big question: since you finally got discovered and taken home, have you always really, really loved Chinese food, or did you never want another bite as long as you lived?
No, I really, really, really love Chinese food. This is my thing.
Is it nostalgic? When you're a kid, 3 days is a long time.
No, I know. But the only thing I remember about the story, the only reason I'm sure it's true, because so many people in my family have told so many different versions of it and how it happened. The only thing I'm sure of is that when my mother came to get me, I was like, no, I'm cool. I'll stay here.
I'll catch up with you later.
They treat me better here, and it's there's not.
They're gambling, but at least it's in a foreign language, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
All of that.
But is that a true story? That's so sad.
It's a little weird. I had a weird upbringing. I mean, I talk about my father. My uncle Rich was a bona fide hitman. He was his father was like from the original mob, like an old timer. When I met him, he was like in his 90s when I was 5 years old.
I still don't. Is this in Brooklyn? Is this in Philadelphia?
It's along South Shore of Long Island, but they were all from Brooklyn. We had just moved out to Lindenhurst, the American Venice, out in there. But my father's family was all Brooklyn mobsters.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have some of those stories, but the reason I brought this up was because I thought I've known comedians who, a lot of them who are playing in casinos more and more, and they have gambling problems, and it always ends up working for a loss for these guys. If you have a gambling problem, I would never take a gig in a casino. I would know
Well, you
better.
know, that's the same exact story as the '80s, where the club owners would book the cokeheads,
Yeah.
and the cokeheads would come and they'd eat up all their pay doing the coke. So so the club owners got free entertainment and they made some money selling the coke. It was like, if you're a cokehead, don't take the gig. But of course, if you're a cokehead, that's the first gig you want. There was a place called Giggles in Tampa. I used to love the girls were wild. The place was wild. It was insane. It was a drunken melee. But I just never caught on to coke because I never could afford it. And you go down there, and your first night there, the owner would get you nice and high, and maybe the second night he get you nice and high, and then the third night he'd say, "You want to buy some coke?" And I'd go, "No, John." And he's like, "What do you mean? I'm not addicted to it. I don't care." But I did well enough that he'd always rebook me, and every time he'd try. So those first couple of nights, wow, let's get high, let's do coke, let's get a bunch of girls. But some of the guys, there was a guy, this is a true story. The first time I worked Giggles in Tampa, there was a guy named Brother B who was the DJ. So when the comedy show was over, he'd spin records and everybody dance. The next year when I came back, he was half owner. He was a coke dealer, and the owner and his wife were coke addicts, or coke, whatever you call it. And so the DJ, who didn't drink and didn't do coke but sold coke, by the time I got back, he owned half the club. It was so.
It's
Hey,
typical.
I got a story you will not believe, and I swear it's true. And stop me if I told you. It was late at night one night, and we're getting ready to leave, and I go in to the bathroom. I'm sure I went in to take a dump because I'm always all worked up and drunk. And I sat down and I looked down, and Matt, there was a roll of bills like that in a rubber band like that. And I was like, holy Jesus. And I picked it up. And I don't remember if there's 100 on the outside or whatever it was, but I mean, you could choke a horse. But I didn't have the present. I was scared to death. It was like picking up, a murder weapon. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I went to Brother B, the half owner. I said, Brother B, I found this in the bathroom. He said, oh, give me that. I know who that is. And he took it and he ran out the door and then came back in. And of course, he just put it in his pocket. But like an idiot, if I had to put it in my pocket and one of his Coke friends came back and said, hey, I lost my roll, and they lined everybody up and said, where's the roll of money? I'm sure I'd be like, but for the life of me, it could have been thousands of dollars. I swear to God,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I would have probably been the same way. I remember once I was working in a gas station. Though, when they first introduced the like gambling booth type gas stations where they come up, 20 on number 2, those gas stations. I was working in overnight, and a guy came out and he was pumping gas in his car, and I saw from his jacket a 2-pound bag of weed fell down as he's pumping his gas on the floor. I'm like, holy shit, there's a big bag of weed out there. And the guy finished pumping his gas. He gets in his car and he drives off. So I just I'm going to take my broom and I'm sweeping the parking lot and go get this thing. And I bring it in. And I had the presence of mind when I brought it in there. I'm like, I'm freaking out now. It's like big bag of weed. So I took another bag and I put 2 ounces in it. And the guy came back and he goes, he's looking around. He's panicking. He looks at me. He goes, "Did you see a bag or something out here?" And I was gonna start playing it off like, "No, I don't know what are you talking about." And I felt so bad for the guy. I said, "Come on in," and I gave him his weed back.
Well, you turned into Ralph Cramden, like hum.
Right. But then he offered me some. He said, "I'm like, no, that's okay, man." Meanwhile, I got a bag with about 2 ounces stashed.
There was a little luncheonette down the street from my house where we always ate. There's stories like that, like you look back at what you could have done, but I'm sure you're when you're in that panic mode, of course you're going to give it back, right?
Yeah.
And we had a hamburger or something, and me and my buddy Wari, one of the 2 brothers whose father was a jockey, and another guy were going to leave, and on the counter of this little luncheonette was a roll of bills. And it was just sitting there, and Wari took it. And then we left and we're walking, and he was a good Catholic boy. And by the time we got a half a block away, me and my buddy Randy, I guess it was, we had 40 ways that we're going to spend this money. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And Wari starts to cave, and he's like, oh man, I got to give the money back. And we're like, no. And we saw him caving. We turned around and went back. And as he walked in to return the money, the guy walked in and, an older guy walked in and said, hey, did somebody find my money? And there it was. And I think he gave Wari like $5. And I'm like, well, I guess you're not even going to split that with us. It's like, yeah, it's so funny. It's like a karmic thing. Even when you're a kid, you know what it is? You know you're going to get caught. You just know you're going to get caught,
Yeah. So one more gambling question. Now, this place, Park Lounge, the 360 Lounge in Park Casino.
Parks Casino, Parx, Parks Casino.
Parks.
And it took me 15 years to learn to say Bensalem, Pennsylvania.
Well, it took me 15 years to learn to say WID. Is it like, because out here they have Jake's 58? You know Jake's 58?
Of course.
It's
like
just
100 different things,
It's just slot machines, though, not like real games, right? Is this place like that, or is it?
No. They have actual tables and stuff like that. You know what? Yes, they do have tables and stuff like, but it's not like a Vegas. It's all like one level, big. Whatever you do, the people are going to waste their money.
Right.
It's just. The first time I worked at a place up in Syracuse. It was so new that the stage ropes were still manila. They're usually jet black. After they were manila. I'm like, this place is so new. And I got there in the afternoon, and there were 1 million slot machines. And this is right after they had made the changeover. There was no longer the one-armed bandits. That you put in your credit card and you play, and when you're done, you take your credit card out, and you have less or you have more. And I'm like, nobody. And there was the ching 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 of the money was a recorded sound. I was like, nobody's going to play these. What are they, out of their minds? I went to my room. I came back for the show. You couldn't get a machine. There was a zillion people. I'm like, these morons. And you stand there for half an hour playing. There is nothing to it. Ching, 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 ding, ding, ding.
That's funny. Yeah, but you know what? It didn't stop people. All they really cared about at the end of the day was that dopamine rush of win, 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 win. But
I thought it was so fun. When I first went to Vegas, everybody played the slot machines because there was nothing more fun than those stupid dollars coming out. That was exciting.
Well, you and I both can remember when Vegas was the only place you could go for gambling. This is what I was thinking about last night, because. And it came up at the discussion at a comedy of people who were just always trying to win the next big contest to be overnight successes without putting in the work. Is that all these states now have some kind of legalized gambling? They don't go for it full on, but they have lotteries and all this stuff. Why why not just make it legal instead of?
It's just like the pot. It sneaks its way in. Also, it's all right to have a joint. It's all right to have a bag. It's all right to have a farm. I think they're on the verge of legalizing gambling in Yankee Stadium. And, what happened to take me out to the goddamn ball game?
Yeah, I can't believe if they would do it at a sporting event. That's like crossing that line. Remember when, I don't know if you remember, but Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle got suspended from baseball because they were used in advertisements for Atlantic City casinos that were opening in the early 70s, and they were
right, and that was stepping on their all-American image and all that.
Right. Now they're going to have slot machines at the game, or
or else you can go up to the window and get a hot dog and bet $5 on the third inning who's going to hit. Because once they allow gambling, then they're going to be betting on every pitch. Now, are you a baseball fan?
Well, here's the thing. I was a huge baseball fan until September 21st of 2008. And then I punched my TV out and said, I'm never watching another pitch ever be thrown. And I said I would never watch another pitch until Wilpon sold the Mets. Wilpon sold the Mets, and I've still been putting it off.
I don't know. Was that a classic Mets loss?
Well, yes. 2 years in a row, they had just choked miserably in September to the Phillies. But the way they did it that time was bases loaded, nobody out, and the three hitters that came up were swinging for the one down by 1 run in the ninth inning. All they need to do is tie and get to the next inning, and they're going to win the game.
Right.
And then
And a single would have been 2 runs.
right. And they were swinging for the fences, and all three of them struck out. And I said, "That's fucking it." I mean, like, yeah, they don't have the fucking sense to just put the ball in play. So
Everybody wants to be a hero, right?
right.
But the reason I'm asking, because I was a baseball fan, of course, when I was a kid. I knew every Yankee, every number, all the, I had all the baseball cards. And people say, how could you be from Long Island and not be a Met fan? I said, there were no Mets when I was a kid.
Right.
The Mets came in 1962. I discovered girls in 1961 and the slow transition, from baseball to pussy. And by the time the Mets got there, all I knew was that one of the kids in my class's father was a part owner of the Mets. And I could have cared less because I'd moved from baseball. But I loved baseball, and my father was so addicted to it. My father was an alcoholic, and he pitched a no-hit game in high school. And there was a little thing in the local paper, and we always had it, And I used to tell people, yeah, my father pitched a no-hit baseball game in high school, and he's been celebrating ever since. That's how I described it. But baseball's so fun, and now they got this pitch clock, batter clock to speed up the game, and that I'm not a big enough fan to raise a ruckus. But the whole idea of the game is it's nice and relaxed and easy. When you're at the bottom of the ninth in the World Series, do you really want the pitcher to be like somebody said, what if it's, tie score with bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, and the winning run scores because the pitcher blew his nose and was too late throwing
Yeah.
The whole thing was like, everything is in enough of a hurry. Why do we got to be in a hurry? The world's going to end anyway. Take your time.
I couldn't agree more. And what I always loved about baseball was that it was slow enough and relaxing enough, but we're not the generation that is the target demographic. But now they are putting runners at second in the ninth inning automatically, like they don't have to do. You're going to start put them on second base in extra innings. They're going to put them on second base, and now what they're experimenting with in the minor leagues is designated runners that can be used anytime for any purpose in and out of the game. So anytime you get somebody on base, you just put your fastest guy out there.
I didn't even hear that. That just rankles. They're not going to be happy until a baseball game will fit in a TikTok. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
God,
and scores will be 30 to 28. That was
and I don't even like the whole a designated hitter, because that was a whole strategy. Do you take out the pitcher? Do you leave him in? That was part of, Casey Stengel would be pulling his hair out,
We're dinosaurs, man, because I agree with you on all that stuff. And
Hey, you know what Billy Martin said about Casey Stengel?
What did he say?
Billy Martin said Casey Stengel was 21 years old before he learned to wave goodbye.
Casey was a character, man. Part of there'll never be another one like that ever. But I love that old generation. That was my grandfather's generation. I love those old coots of that.
Hey,
day.
Speaking of which, there's a new documentary out called "It Ain't Over," and on Tuesday I'm going to the premiere because it's my friend Tom Bernard, Sony Pictures Classics. It's one of his films, and the premiere is in Manhattan. But it's the story of Yogi Berra.
Wow.
And I can't wait. It's, that there's a character, that you can't, like you said, like Casey, you can't make a character like Woody.
I think
Yogi.
There's a lot of synergy there. I think those two characters have so much in common. Casey took Yogi over to the Mets in 1962, and Yogi became their first base coach. Oh, Yogi was actually a player first for the Mets for like half a season.
A friend of mine that passed away was a video production guy. He still owes me money, but I don't think I'm going to get it because he's
you're
dead.
not.
So, but he made the videos for Yogi Berra's website and for I guess I haven't been to Hall of Fame in Cooperstown in a million years, but I guess each person who's in the Hall of Fame, there's like a little video thing.
Kiosk, yeah.
Right. So he made the video for that too. And he said, Jackie, in the course of working with Yogi for a week, he did a couple of yogis that aren't the ones you see when you read the books or when you see. He wasn't being funny. It was like Rodney Dangerfield. He said these things, and they sound right, and then you're like, no,
Right.
like no, Froggy. And I never forgot them. He said, Cher, she was really good in that movie Moonstruck. Yeah, I think she got the Golden Glove, which is great. And he said, when Don was pitching his perfect game, I swear to God, by the 7th inning, Yankee Stadium was as quiet as a pin.
Now,
the last one, he said, Eno Slaughter played 16 years. I don't know how he did it. He smoked like a fish. Which is they're just perfect yogis. And you won't see them anywhere.
I had to think about that. Drinks like a fish. What didn't come up right away in the synopsis.
No, yeah, because they sound right until you say, no, Froggy.
I did one of those once. I remember saying I remember what I said was 1969, the year the Mets landed on the moon.
which sounds perfect. That's great. That's so great.
But I don't remember why I said that. But for some reason, we were doing a show on 1969 or whatever. But yeah, those were some good stuff. Now, do you think Norm Crosby ever his were intentionally, but do you think he ever fell into that trap when he was not in persona, not doing his act?
That is such a good question. I would hate for somebody in Yogi's family to say, no, he used to plan those before he said them. I think Norm Crosby was very, very studied, and I doubt that he did them by accident. But it'd be really funny if he did. Because everybody hornswoggles something like that once in a while. You get things absolutely wrong.
Yeah,
but it's always funny, because it's so.
I wonder if people even know Norm Crosby anymore, because most of these comedians, guys who are in the business, who should know the history of comedy, I bring up the name Robert Klein, and they don't know who it is.
But it's like, in the 60s, if somebody said the name of a movie star that wasn't a major movie star, or maybe somebody from the very first television shows, there were lots of names you didn't know. It's of course they should, but it's an interesting question. There's a guy named, there was what was his name? The guy that did the first Ed Sullivan impression.
Oh yeah, I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Well,
the guy who came up with really big shoe.
Yeah, Will Jordan. I became friends with a very old comedian, and it's a whole show. This guy named Frankie Ray Perilli, and he was in a 2-man group that was on Sullivan. He managed Hunt's Hall. He managed an all-midget orchestra. He managed an all-women orchestra. He was partners with Shecky Green in a comedy club in New Orleans called Wits End, until they found a dead body in the green room. You could not make this guy up. And he wrote a letter to me at the Stern Show, and we were friends for a long time. He finally died at like 95. But he was great friends with Lenny Bruce. I got a letter, to Lenny Bruce from Ed Sullivan that I still have. And he had all these stories. He was good friends with Jackie Gale. And when I was really doing well, so I sent him a couple $100 to go to dinner with Jackie Gale, stuff like that. And he would send me manila envelopes full of this incredible memorabilia that meant nothing to anybody. Like an 8x10 of Hunt's Hall, or an 8x10. But he was dear friends with Will Jordan, because he hung around with that pack, the Lenny Bruce, those guys. And Will Jordan was so interesting, okay? So Frankie wrote to me and says, you got to get in touch with Will Jordan, because he wrote his autobiography. And Will's. Oh no, Will. I was friends with Will, and he wrote to me and said, "Hey, Jackie, they wrote a biography of Ed Sullivan, and I got my couple pages in it. You got to get it, and you got to trust me. Get the biography of Ed Sullivan. You wouldn't think there'd be a page that's interesting. It's fascinating. And I know as a show business guy, you'd be fascinated. He wanted to be a star. He wanted to be a movie star. It's unbelievable. But Will got his couple of pages in it. So we became friends. So I went with him. I brought him to the Friars Club for lunch. And me and my friend David Friedman, and we sat and had lunch. And Will was so sharp and so smart. And we're sitting there to have lunch. All he had was 4 shrimp. He only ate 2 of them, and most of it was on the front of his shirt. He talked for an hour and a half, and it was so fascinating because every time he started a story and went on a tangent, he came back and dotted the I. But the point I'm making is, he'd be talking and telling stories, and he'd talk about red buttons, and then he'd talk, but then it would segue into Eddie Schmigneck. There were people that were just under the line of people you were aware of. And it was so interesting because the people you knew, it's like, I'm sure he thought we should know who that is, but of course we don't know who that is. And that line gets crazy. Nowadays, if people you stop on the street, if you say Johnny Carson, a healthy amount of people have no idea who you're talking about.
Oh my God,
and it's almost to the point where you could say Jay Leno and they don't know.
I'm really interested in that letter you talked about from Ed Sullivan to Lenny Bruce. Like, what would
I have that in my computer. Frankie Pirelli. It was a letter from Ed Sullivan to Frankie Pirelli.
I thought it was to Lenny Bruce.
No, it was Frankie was trying to get Lenny Bruce on the Ed Sullivan show.
Oh.
And Ed wrote back to Frankie. Ed, this is from Ed. I mean, by his secretary, but Frankie. Jack Carter tells me that Lenny is a really exciting performer and he's really good, but I can't have him doing his low-end pyrotechnics on my show. What kind of a guarantee would I have that he would not go off? And it's
I think Kiera is calling to talk to you.
Oh, well, she's the only one that can interrupt the Lenny Bruce story.
Hello? I'm not hearing you. Hello?
Hello, am I live?
Oh, it's you. I thought it was Kiera because I just talked. Kiera's on that text thing that you guys were doing, and I just said Jackie's online.
Yeah.
He says hello.
So I want to have a party here on Friday.
There goes that boner.
Yeah, no, we're not interested in talking to guys. Have Kiera call us back.
Nah, you two pervs. That's all you need.
You're on the air right now.
Right.
You're not comfortable.
I'm on the air.
Yes.
I said pervs on the air.
Yeah.
You two. I wasn't sure if you were on or not.
What?
We're looking to have a big party here at the nursing home.
Fine.
We're going to wake them up.
Fine. Have Kiera call and tell her I'll send her a link and she can come on and say hello to Jackie from work.
Who is or was that?
I'm hanging up on you. That is Mikey, who is the singer in the Rockin' 45s with me and Kiera, but he's also her boss during the day.
At a nursing home?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus. I thought it was one of your guests that was calling from a nursing home.
No, it is. That's Kiera's boss. I thought Kiera, they're all texting about something that's going on Friday afternoon. And I'm like, Kiera, Jackie's on right now. Why don't you come on and say hello? And then the phone rang from that building. And I thought, well, it's
all right. I get it. Well, at any rate, I'm going to email you that, the Frankie Pirelli letter.
Wow, that's very cool.
And Frankie has this fantastic story that I'll also email you. It's called "I Saw Milton Berle's Cock."
I think I know that one.
I sent you that.
It's like gigantic too, right?
It's a great story. I'm not going to tell you anything about it,
Okay.
But yes, it was gigantic. There's a famous story. What's his name? Buddy Hackett's son. Sandy Hackett. Stop me if I told you this. It was his bar mitzvah. So everybody from show business is at Buddy Hackett's son Sandy's bar mitzvah. and it's a big, huge event. And Milton Berle took him in the men's room. Sandy's a friend of mine. I've known him for years and years. And he said, "Close your eyes and put out your hand." And of course, Sandy thought he was going to hand him like $500, and he put this gargantuan cock in his hand. Oh, he said it was like, not being gay, just being outrageous. I mean, what a great story.
I would never fall for that. I'm a pretty gullible guy, but if somebody in a men's room, somebody told me, "Close your eyes and put out your hands," I was like, not in here.
If you were in a show business bar mitzvah and everybody you ran into was handing you thousands of dollars, you'd open your mouth. Trust me, Milton Berle was on the Stern Show once, and he sat there, and we had him for a whole segment. And when we got done with the segment, he walked out with whoever was handling him. And I always would leave to take a leak because I drank so much coffee. And I was walking right behind him. And he turned to the guy he was with, and he said, "That guy talked about my cock for 45 minutes.
Now he had to be 100 years old by then, right? Or no?
Oh yeah. He had just put out another book. What a angry, crazy. He was Mr. Television and the cream of the crop in the world in 1954. And by 1955, he was hosting Jackpot Bowling. It was like, wow.
Right.
And he was on every TV because nobody had any TVs, and there was one station. It was either Milton Berle or you saw a test pattern.
Right.
All of a sudden, there were other shows.
Wasn't it Ed Sullivan who kind of took over his audience when Sullivan came on with the Show of Shows? No, since he's at the Show of Shows, I think
Ed Sullivan around for Mickey.
Toast of the Town.
Mickey, what's his face? Oh no, I'm confused because Mickey, the little friar that played Zimmerman, he said the claim to fame was the Bilko show. The Phil Silvers show.
Phil Silvers.
That was the show that knocked I Love Lucy out of #1.
Wow.
But I think the competition for Milty was just other TV shows.
Right.
I don't know who exactly specifically, but all of a sudden it was a level playing field. It wasn't just him,
Right. And then towards the end, right around the time you were getting on Stern, or right around there, like the late 80s, Milton Berle was threatened by RuPaul on an award show. RuPaul was, I guess, grew up with a major grudge over Milton Berle wearing dresses and making fun of trans people or something, or drag queens, but threatened him on the MTV Awards or something like that.
I don't remember that, but I'll tell you, when I was a little kid, my aunt and uncle lived upstairs, and my father's brother married my mother's sister. And we lived downstairs and they lived upstairs. And I swear to God, we were the Cramdens and the Nortons. I swear to you. And my Aunt Janet was Trixie. And she had to have every gadget. So all of a sudden there's television. So they had a television like 2 years before us. But my father made twice as much as my uncle. It was absurd. But we would go upstairs to watch television on the big TV with the little tiny screen. But I swear to you on my mother, I can still see Milton Berle in a polka dot dress. It was like, it's burnt into my memory, And I don't remember, but who knew if he was making fun or not making fun? He was just, dressing up as women. That was part of show business,
Right.
People just did that,
No, you know what? I try to kind of have this conversation with people. Drag performance is not sexual. It's not about, it's a guy in a dress. It's about the being over the top campy, and it's always been part of the human condition going back 10,000. As long as there's been entertainment, there have been guys putting on dresses and making fun.
Right. It's not a guy dressing up as a girl and he's walking down Park Avenue and 29th Street trying to pick up guys to turn a trick.
Right.
Do not ask me how I know the specific address. I'm sure I got a lot of old boyfriends still walking around there.
Yeah. So it looks like Rob, Maebe, will sound that I would pronounce that maybe, right? Rob Maybe, who was supposed to be on the show either forgot about that he busted my balls to be on the show,
No, maybe
or
you called him up to be on the show, and maybe he said maybe, and he
maybe.
decided against it.
I'm looking at his website. It's I'm just giving him a plug, even though he didn't show up here. Rob Maybe is captivating, slightly intimidating, a lovable asshole. Raised in 13 states by the age of 9, Rob has already seen a lot. Splitting his teenage years between Phoenix, Arizona, and Amarillo, Texas, told him to look at things from every angle. He uses that outlet to express his humorous point of view on everything from blacking out to the don'ts of parenting to the women he dates and more. He spends his life in weird situation after one weird situation after another, knowing it will probably lead to be funny in hindsight. So that's the guy who's not
Do
here.
you think maybe he didn't want to come on because you booked me too?
No. I think this happens a lot. I get guys forget time zone issues. Like people can't tell. Like he'll contact me at like 11:30. I'm waiting in the background. No, the show's over.
And listen, the amount of comics that are irresponsible, but there's irresponsible and there's stupid. I'll tell you a heartbreaking story that might have had nothing to do with my life, but it might have changed my life. Right after I got off the Stern show, I was on the throes of divorce. I quit drinking, moved into a home all by myself. And they say if you move or if you quit drinking or if you get a divorce, any one of those is enough to throw whatever you do, don't change anything else. If you lose your job, don't change anything else. If you quit drinking, don't. So I changed 4 major things. So I'm a mess. And this girl booked me, this friend of mine from the Stern show, got me a great gig. I don't remember if it was $2,500 or $5,000, but it was a healthy amount of money. Limo, Atlantic City, beautiful hotel, whatever I wanted. And I was performing for the top people from Coca-Cola. So I don't know anything about the gig, but it's good money. And I go there and they go, all right, you're on. And I walk into a boardroom, Matt, a boardroom with maybe 6 tables or 8 tables, round dinner tables with maybe 6 or 8 or 10 people at each table. No microphone, no stage, no nothing. Just a bunch of wasps, rich people from Atlanta, the top of Coca-Cola. And I have no idea what to do. So I just kind of walked around and talked and tried to be funny, and they have no sense of humor. I don't think anybody smiled for 35 or 40 minutes, but I had to keep going because I wanted to get paid. And when I swear to you, I have no idea what happened in that room. I walked out, went to my room, ordered a steak, shrimp, took off my clothes and sat there naked and basked in this huge thing. And I swear to God, after 30 years, I'm like, I got to quit show business. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I don't belong. I'm freaking out. 45 minutes later, the phone rings and it's Anne Marie. She says, Jackie, I'm sorry it took so long to call because they had to have coffee and eat dessert, but we're at the bar. These people love you. They're going to pay you double and they would like you to come down and hang out. So I go down. They pay me double. It was either 5,000 or 10, whatever it was. It was a healthy amount. They couldn't have been, it was just, it was mind blowing. So I said, listen, you guys, you know what? You got to come be my guest at the Friars Club. And they're like, oh, and here they are, rich people, but it's a big deal to people from out of town to go to the Friars Club. So they're excited. I'm excited. I'm thinking, I'm going to be writing copy for Coca-Cola or I'm going to be on a bottle. I don't know what's going to happen. We make this date. Weeks later, I'm off the show. I'm a mess. I quit drinking. I don't know anything from anything. I go out to the middle of Jersey to bang some girl that was just, I shouldn't have crossed the street. And I get done with her and I'm driving back to Manhattan, but I'm an hour out of Manhattan and my phone rings. And if this is, like 20 years ago, my phone rings and I go, hello, Jackie, this is Anne Marie. Where are you? We're at the Friars Club. I left the heads of Coca-Cola. I stood them up because I don't know whether I hadn't written down or got it mixed up. They never wanted to take another phone call. They wouldn't let me explain. I'll never know if that would have meant anything or not meant anything, but that's so typical of a comic being, if there was ever a date you're going to remember, it's going to be with the heads of Coca-Cola at the Friars Club,
You bet. I mean, and this happened to me, and I think this is Kiera here, the light worker, asking if you play bongos. She's an excellent bongo player. I think this is her. I don't know where light worker comes in, and it looks like a bunch of daisies or something, or sunflowers. Oh, that's what that is in her picture there. But I think that's her saying hello to you. She's being funny. But I forgot a gig on Sunday. I was here putting my schedule together for the week, and the phone rang, and a place I was supposed to be performing at that moment called me. Matt, I was like, shit.
Oh God.
I said, well, can I, if I leave now, I could be there in 45 minutes. No, it was for a nursing home gig. And it would have been, she said, they'll probably be asleep in 45 minutes.
Oh God. That's just chilling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you a great story. It was my first job in the Catskills. I was working at the Raleigh. I was supposed to work at the Raleigh, and I'm on my way to the Catskills. I'm all excited. I'm in my brand new Volvo. And the Cross Bronx Expressway, there's no shoulder. And anytime you're on the Cross Bronx, all you can think of is, what if something happened? There's nowhere to go. What are you going to do, right? This is me living a Jewish joke, okay? So I'm riding along, and in retrospect, what must have happened is a bunch of kids must have thrown an old Christmas tree off the crossover pass at one of the exits, but the Christmas tree still had all the tinsel on it. So in the lights of the highway, it looked like an engine block. It was in the middle of one of the lanes. The car in front of me screeches to a halt. I smash into the back of them, and behind me is an old Buick with 6 Mexicans in it. They smash into me. They smashed my car so bad that being rear-ended, the car was totaled. But it was a Volvo, and my seat sheared off. I didn't even have a sore neck the next day. For the last 45 years, I bought nothing but the same Volvo, because any other car, I'd be dead. But what a mess. The Cross Bronx, they finally come, they tow us. I get to a gas station. I finally get to a phone. And this is long before cell phones. And I call the Raleigh. And the manager, the entertainment director, gets on the phone. And I'm like, hey, man, this is Jackie Martling. I'm really sorry. Geez, I was just this accident on the Cross Bronx, and they smashed into me. I'm so lucky I'm alive. And they finally towed me to to the gas station. I finally got to make a call. Man, I'm really sorry. And the guy goes, so you're not coming? Not like, are you all right? What are we going to do about the show? Oh my God.
The show must go on.
For once in my life, I didn't forget. I just almost got killed,
Yeah.
Gee,
I'm trying to think of, I think I think somebody had their mother. Oh, no, it wasn't. So I thought the bass player who was on the gig that night died, and I called the thing because there was a DJ at the exact same radio station that our bass player worked with that had the exact same name, Bill Capozzi. There were 2 Bill Capozzis working at WUSB, both DJs, both bass players. And one guy I met with, I was talking, and he said, who's in your band? And I said, Bill Capozzi plays bass. He said, oh, you didn't hear? He died. He just died the other day. Bill Capozzi plays bass, right? DJ at USB. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I called the singer. I said, Mikey, did Bill die? He goes, I hope not. He's on the gig tonight. I was like, that's your reaction? I hope not. He's on the gig tonight. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, he owed me $20. Is that USB Stony Brook?
Yeah, WUSB, first station of the 90s. Yeah, 90.1.
Wow. I think Nancy just played live on there yesterday.
I wouldn't doubt it. She played live on here 2 days ago.
Oh, was she great, right?
Yes. I was very surprised that, first of all, that you scored yourself a very beautiful woman very when you were young. Like how did that happen? Must have been because you were an athlete. It wasn't because you were so rich and famous.
That's a long story. When I met her, we played at Rum Runner in Oyster Bay,
I
and
remember it.
I was I don't know how old I was at that time, probably 25. And she might not have even been old enough to drink, and she was the head waitress there. And I remember we pulled up in our big Cadillac hearse to unload, because we only got to play there once in a while, because we had two guys with guitars, but we played every Tuesday night, and we packed the place because all the locals came and they drank like mad. And I remember meeting this girl and said, "Wow, that girl is so over my level." Like that. That's not somebody who's attainable for me, let alone the fact she was so young. It turned out she was best friends with this girl that was very attracted to me and chased after my band. And I went out with that girl, and then I started turning to comedy. And the girl was cheating on me with like 8 different guys. I had no idea because I was so invested in comedy. And she broke my heart. And Nancy like nursed me back to health. I mean, she was my friend, and we hung out and laughed. And then she quit her job to come work with me because she was fed up with. She was a studio manager at a recording studio called Kingdom Sound that was half coke then and half recording. And we worked together, and then things led to. But she always thought I was still in love with my old girlfriend, and I kept telling her, "No, you don't have any. I thought you were unattainable."
Yeah.
I was, but she to this day she doesn't believe me. But yeah, I was way over my head.
No,
But
yeah.
she's still one of my best friends.
Good for you. Now, what the other thing? Her voice sounds like a very young girl. When I heard, because she sent me some music in advance, it's like, man, her voice sounds like a 17-year-old girl, which is not a bad thing if you're in music. You want to sound young, but it was just so surprising. Like, how do you keep? You expect somebody my age.
And she's a great singer songwriter and a great actress. But of course, she was my wife, and I'm on the Stern Show. And in 15 years, Howard never even told the world I was a funny comic, or that he did my plugs, but kind of with his teeth gritting. And he never said you really should go see Jackie's funny. And of course, all he did was make fun of her music, make fun of her band. She's wasting her husband's money.
Wow.
And so he did so much damage, but that was his act. When you get under that umbrella of it's his act, it's a whole long story. But it was so unfair, and we're getting more famous every second. And the lightning didn't strike for her, but it should have. And obviously, you see
Well, I kind of talked to her about this. It's not for lack of uh, bringing quality music to people. It's that the times have changed, and what it was really selling and what is still selling is cookie cutter pop dance music. And that if you're not doing that, I don't care how good you are. You could be Tom Waits and put out an album right now, and it's not going to sell. You could be.
yeah, it's such a just like comedy. It is such a tough game. You can do all the homework and all the everything. My friend Dave Hawthorne said when he was in a group with Billy Crystal and another guy, and when they've got their first manager, the guy said, "Guys, I got to tell you one thing. The business is a whore, and she doesn't fuck for everybody." I've never forgotten that because that tells the tale.
It definitely does.
You can do everything right, and that means nothing.
Right. And
But thank you for having her on. I'm really glad you did. That's a nice thing.
I'm glad I did too. And one of the things I talked to her about is because she is like me, interested in the songwriting process. So I want to do I've been talking about this for months now, and I'm going to get off my ass and do it. I want to do a show on Twitch. Twitch is a different live stream platform. We're on there, but we don't do much. But the platform is for people who do things, and I want to do things writing, a songwriter's workshop, kind of like, let's write a song together. Here's 2 hours of live stream. We're going to take just blank canvas and create a song each episode. Like, I take a different songwriter and go through, let's write a song here online for people, show them how it's done, and
I love that. Do you have any idea that, I mean, that's what I did until I gave up? I was a songwriter for like 10 years until I realized, I wasn't any good. And I've always had the same rap with people when it comes to art, whether you're painting pictures or sculpting, whatever it is, how good you are or how successful you are is not necessarily related in any way to how invested you are in what you're doing. I love writing songs. I put my life's blood into them. I had a girl break my heart so bad. I wrote so many songs about her. This isn't the girl from Nancy. This is the girl before her, and the girl before that. I mean, and all the things about how you could write a song in 5 minutes, and then other songs would take you 6 months. And I went through all the changes and all the craziness that I'm sure so many songwriters went through, but I have no proof of it because when I quit, there was no evidence. It was Rodney Dangerfield's famous line, "I quit music," and to give you an idea how well I was doing in music, I was the only one who knew I quit. Okay, but I would love to sit and talk to you about that because it was so much fun, and and did they make fun of my songs on the Stern Show. They just
Now,
you could take a Beatles song, and if you just take one phrase at a time and make fun of it, it all looks like horse shit.
right, yeah, absolutely. Now, it would make sense because with the Nancy video the other day after we did the show, I go into YouTube and I start tagging it with keywords and stuff. And then as soon as I put in her name, I have an AI thing that suggests related keywords. As soon as I put in Nancy Sirianni, Howard Stern, Benny the imbecile, whatever Benny's name was, everybody on the Stern Show name started coming up. I was like, why are they associating her with all these people? Now it makes sense that he
Right. Everybody, it was Jackie's wife, simple target.
Yeah, it was like a bully party. Like let's that's what it became. That whole whack pack thing was like, let's find somebody that we could all gang up on who's not here. We can
Right. And if you're a songwriter or an actor or something like that, you're putting it out there. You put a song out there. Like me, I put my songs out. When you lay it on the line like that, you're putting it out there, and people, of course, they can stomp on it with spikes. They just can.
Right. I want to ask you about this as it relates to comedy because I've been on, William Conway, who's been on this program many times. I love Will, good guy. He is in South Dakota now. He was in a contest for Last Comic Standing, did not make the cut. Then the 10th guy in the lineup bowed out, and they gave him that cut, and he was putting all his chips on that. But he's a guy who's trapped in this.
Wait. What has that got to do with South Dakota?
Well, he went to South Dakota because that's where it was. That's where the contest was. But his wife was in Grants, New Mexico. He said he was going to South Dakota for a gig. Went there and got to the. This is. I'm going to give you a long story for this because you asked now.
That's fine. That's fine.
He went to South Dakota to do a weekend gig. Calls his wife up and says, "We're getting a divorce. I need to do this. I need to chase my dream and work at stand-up comedy as much as I can, and you're not supporting it enough, and I'm blocking you on all social media. Don't contact me anymore. We'll get a divorce, and this is what I'm going to do." And he puts all his chips in this winning a contest to get there. And
no, wait. This is a true story you're telling.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to.
And I'm like, you're doing it the wrong way. First of all, you got to take an assessment of where you're at. You're not ready for Bill Burr's place or Dave Chappelle's place on the top of the Netflix or Showtime special, 3 specials a year kind of deal. You're not ready for that. So winning a contest is not going to bring you to that level. No matter if you come in first in this contest, you're not going to elevate your game. First thing you need to do.
Wait. Another question. Is this after him winning, or this is before
he never won? He didn't win. He just entered.
Sorry.
He just entered, but he's got no car. He's got no bank account. He's staying with a friend in a friend's room in charity. I was like, that's not the way for a 40-something-year-old breaking into comedy at 42. That's not the path. That's not the way to do it. You have to be realistic about where your skills are, where your mastery of your craft is, and this idea about Hail Mary passes or trying to hit a 5-run home run to make a career.
Who makes that decision in South Dakota?
Right.
That's so patently funny by itself.
Yeah, he sent me a picture of the big city. The big city looks like Lindenhurst. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, is population 130,000. I like the town of Babylon has like 500,000.
Hey, I'll tell you, here's a classic story. Me and Peter Bales, my partner, way back when in 1979, we used to have gigs all over the place. And I had a car, and sometimes we get booked on these gigs. So I would drive to Manhattan and pick up the comics at the Improv, and we go do a gig. So one night, me and Peter Bales went to the Improv and picked up Dennis Wolfberg. Do you know that name?
Yeah, yeah.
So Wolfberg gets in the car, and we're going to a ground round, one of those places with the peanut shells on the floor. We're going to ground round in the middle of New Jersey, and Wolfberg says, "Hey, I did it." He was a school teacher, and that day he had called in and resigned his gig as a school teacher because he's going to go full time. He's going to give it a full time go at being a comedian, and he was so thrilled. We're on our way to the ground round. My radiator overflows. We pull over. We literally went to a house near the highway and asked to borrow water. If you did that today, you'd get shot, right?
You would get
We
shot.
got some water. For whatever reason, we couldn't get the car going. I had my amplifier, speakers, guitar, me, Bales, and Wolfberg. We had to call the club and ask them to come pick us up. And I said, Jesus, I hope they don't come with a gang up here. So one of the waitresses comes to pick us up, and she's got her girlfriend in the car. To this day, I'll never know, but all of us and the equipment are in the car, and we go to the club and we do the show. And the girl says, "Listen, you could stay over my house because my brother is a mechanic and he can help you fix the car in the morning, and you can go home." Wolfberg had parked his car in a place where if you didn't move your car by 6 in the morning, it would be towed. But he thought he's perfectly safe. True story. Me and the waitress and a couple of guys from the club drop off Peter Bales and Dennis Wolfberg at the turnoff to Route 3 to Manhattan in Jersey at like 12 o'clock midnight to hitchhike back to Manhattan. This is the day that Wolfberg had decided he was going to quit being a school teacher and go full-time comedy. And there's a grown man hitchhiking back to Manhattan, and I take off in the car with the girls and open the window and say, "Good luck," mooned them or something, just one of those
It's
classic.
amazing that I even have heard of Dennis Wolfberg after that story. Now I'm trying to remember.
And he was great, and everybody loved him. And I'll tell you, he was one of those guys that he was a weird looking Jewish guy, and he insisted on being tan. He was always in Florida, and when he was in Manhattan, he always would go up on the roof of his building with one of those, reflecto things, so he could have his face tan. He always had the greatest tan, and then he died of skin cancer. I mean, you couldn't even make that up. But he was a great guy. He's a great comic, and everybody loved him. And it was so sad.
Do you remember? Because I think I'm remembering that he was on Quantum Leap, the show, as the guy who ran the computer or something.
I didn't follow him. I wouldn't know.
Yep, Quantum Leap, known for Quantum Leap. I know because I knew him as a comedian, but I could have sworn that I was just wondering if my memory was really intact. Yes, he was on Quantum Leap. Yeah, very funny guy. A lot of those guys. That's my era where I really became a big time stand-up comedy fan. That was, you're talking like 80s is when he broke those. Steve Landesberg, people like that,
Well, Landesberg was like probably like a couple of years. Landesberg was the Jay Leno's, the Robert Klein's, the
yeah, he's more of a 70s guy, right? Yeah,
right. Like the 80s, like Peter Bales was in the same. The comic strip group was like Bales and Jerry Seinfeld, Larry Miller, Dennis Wolfberg. Paul Reiser, Carol Leifer, all of them, you know.
You know what I was thinking? And you being a North Shore guy might not get this as much, but I was thinking of that South Shore line on the LIRR, the Long Island Railroad, where they call out the names of the town: Babylon, Lindenhurst, Copiague, Amityville, Massapequa Park, Massapequa, all that. You could probably put attach a comedian to every single one of those names on the South Shore. I know you got Lynbrook, you got Ray Romano, you got Massapequa, you got Seinfeld and Larry Miller. Babylon, you got Rodney Dangerfield. You could go through
right. So that's funny. They draw a map and put the faces, you know.
Right. I want to try and do that. Now, the only place that, well, no, actually, Copiague has Bob Nelson. I forgot about that. So I think every single town has at least one I could put in there. That would be good to have, like, do that conductor thing.
You know, I have a song. I got to send you a song. One of my songs, I think was the second song I ever wrote in like 1972, was a song about the Oyster Bay line of the Long Island Railroad.
Wow.
And the song actually starts out with me as the conductor. Mill Neck, Locust Valley, Glen Cove, Glen Street, Seacliff, Glenhead, Greenville, Roslyn, Albertson, and Mineola. Change at Jamaica. For the city so nice, they named it twice. I can still do it, you know, because my buddy's father was a conductor on the Long Island Railroad, and a guy who I was in a band with in the 70s, or in high school actually. After high school, between college years, so long ago, he played the Quarterbox accordion in our band, and his parents owned the bar right across the street from the Oyster Bay train station. It was called the Station Rest, and it was literally the end of the line, and that was the bar. And the guy that was the conductor on the railroad was the chief cook and bottle washer at the bar. It was a whole wonderful thing. You'll love the song. It was so cute.
Very cool.
Nobody liked it, but it's fun, you know.
Yeah. We have to say goodbye to Governors right now. Governors radio, Governors podcasts, and all that stuff. It's time to get ready for Knock 'em Dead comedy with Tony Walker.